All right, welcome into the Aggie Up podcast. I'm Isaac Draxler.
And I'm Seth Tubaugh.
All right, good to be on here with you, Seth. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
All right. Okay, perfect. Well, tonight we'll be covering the obviously looking back at the USC game. We'll be previewing the Arkansas State game on Friday. So kind of a short week leading up to the Friday night matchup at 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So everybody get excited for that. Jet, we're joined by Arkansas State uh, writer Jeff Reed covers Arkansas State. He even covers them for Scout.com as well. So Jeff, thanks for joining us tonight.
Um, I'm honored to be here. Thank
All
you.
right. Perfect. Well, we appreciate it. So, kind of looking over the matchup and the schools and everything. I mean, a lot of things pop up, and a lot of things look similar. I mean, even looking back in the past, Utah State's been in the same conference as Arkansas State. You know, they've had a good matchup, and a few times they've played the last couple years. The most recent being when they went down to Arkansas State and lost a heartbreaker at Arkansas State. But my first question, Jeff, is why is Arkansas State in the Sun Belt? Why aren't they in the Mountain West?
Well, I guess there might be some geographical issues there. I don't know for sure, but the Sun Belt is actually a pretty good home for A-State. It's the way it's grown. It's at one time was pretty much in the middle. Now it's kind of in the more probably the western third, but it's a good league to be in, and I know a lot of the A-State people are somewhat frustrated because there hasn't been an invitation to a self-perceived better conference. But now most people pretty much see that Conference USA is not really any better than the Sun Belt. So, but why they're not in the Mountain West, the only thing I can think of is geography.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but there are a lot of
Yeah.
similarities that with Arkansas
Oh,
State and Utah State for sure.
I don't think there's any question about that. I think they're, especially, that they've kind of both burst onto the scene here at the same time. The last 5 years have been very good for both schools. ASU went Division One in the '90s, and it was an absolute disaster. And in the 2000s, early 2000s, things started getting a little better, built a foundation, got more competitive, and then here in the last 5 years, it's just exploded. So it's been a good fit for Arkansas State.
So are Arkansas State fans kind of looking at the Big 12 expansion and some of those kind of things, kind of expecting maybe to go up to a different conference?
Well,
Is that on the radar? Or?
hey, when Arkansas State was included in that list, it was already a victory. I mean, it's
Well,
just to be included. I mean, honestly, it was just, and it caught everybody by surprise. I remember that tweet came out on a Friday afternoon, Brent McMurphy, and it was like, wow, thank you, God. I mean, it was, and and even the administrators of the school, they were just giddy about it. I don't think anybody ever expected realistically to have a very good chance at it, but at the same time, to be among the 15, 16, 17, whatever schools that the Big 12 was even looking at you, and the Big 12 even acknowledged that you exist. I'm sure you guys probably have the same problem when you start talking about schools from the Power Five, just having them acknowledge your existence other than being a payday football game. It's quite an achievement. So it was, I don't expect the Red Wolf to be in the Big 12. I think that school's AD has his eyes more set on the AAC if he gets a chance to move. I think that's where he'd like to go. It would be somewhat of a fit with SMU and Rice and Tulsa. It's all fairly close. So, and we'll have to see. I would imagine that if BYU's not taken, I would imagine that the two schools that go to the Big 12 will probably be out of the AAC, and that might create a couple openings there. So we'll see. But I think ASU's already gotten its Christmas present when it was put on the list for the Big 12 consideration. I don't expect it will go any past that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would agree, especially, I mean, going from the Sun Belt to the Big 12 is not going to happen, I don't think. I mean,
Oh,
I
no.
don't know exactly what Arkansas State's budget is or anything like that, but if the Big 12 takes a team, they're going to want a team that's a little bit closer to that 50, 60, 80 million dollar budget,
Yeah.
or potential. And Utah
Mm-hmm.
State and Arkansas State are not in the biggest metropolis,
Yeah.
areas. They're not the highest population, TV markets. So and that's one of the reasons why Utah State and Arkansas State are similar. So
Yeah, you're right. And ASU's budget's around $32 million, and it's made a big jump in the last
yeah,
4 or 5 years to get to that point. Before it was, in the 20s. And of course, at the same time, you talk about those budgets. If you put a Arkansas State or a Utah State in the Big 12 and let them share that money and reap the benefits of being, in that conference, and all of a sudden your budget's probably going to double in 3 or 4 years.
right.
And then you're a lot closer to what those guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but I mean that budget is pretty miraculous considering. I mean, the Sun Belt has no TV, very little TV revenue. I mean, it's nowhere near the P5s or even, I think last time I saw it, it was quite a bit lower than the Mountain West. So, for Arkansas State to have a budget like that is pretty impressive. So,
I think A-State gets about $500,000 a year from the TV deals that it's a part of. The Sun Belt has actually done a pretty good job of getting some agreements out of ESPN and some other. Well, now they're going to be part of the that new outfit, American Sports Network, I think's the name of it. I don't know if they carry any games out west or not, but they'll be a part of that.
Tier.
But actually, ESPN3 has been and ESPN have been pretty good partners with the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I mean, like Friday, obviously, it's not on ESPN, but CBS
No,
Sports and some of those, Fox Sports One, and there's definitely a lot of different places that people can go to watch football. So
yeah, this is rather unusual for Arkansas State that playing on a Friday night, because in this part of the country, Friday night football is huge for the high schools. And this will be the second Friday night that A-State played on. The season opener against Toledo was put on Friday night by ESPNU, and which ASU really wasn't in favor of that, but really didn't have much choice. Okay, yeah, we'll do it. And then this one. This is good. You like your road games to be on national TV because it's a tough trip, and I don't imagine I know some people who are going, but I don't imagine there'll be more than 200 there if there's that many.
yep, absolutely. So just as a side note, I think got the technical difficulties figured out last week. We had like 4 of us on the podcast, and during the interview we could only have 2 of us, but we got all 3 of us. So Seth, you can chime in too. So
All right. Well, I was just having fun listening to you guys, so I was just sitting back and relaxing. Jeff, I do have a question though. I grew up in Iowa, and I remember when A-State came up and played the Hawkeyes. I think it was early 2000s, and I didn't know anything about Arkansas State. I watched that game, and I mean they took it to the Hawkeyes, and I was
17-14 or something like that. It was a field goal game, I remember.
It
You
was
remember a
awesome.
linebacker that had an 80-yard interception return, did a somersault into the end zone?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember the game.
uh, his name is Demario Davis, and he's playing with the Cleveland Browns now. But,
Oh,
but yeah, it was. That's kind of been ASU's history. Now, part of ASU's problem in playing the P5 schools is the AD has set such lofty standards as to what he wants for a payday that there aren't that many P5 schools who can play it, who can pay it. So you wind up playing the USCs and the Oregons and the Alabamas and the Auburn's and the Nebraska, the elite programs. Well, it's pretty darn hard to beat those guys. I think there are a lot of P5 programs that A-State could beat and Utah State could beat. But and a lot of those programs don't want to play us. And by us, I mean Arkansas State and you guys, because they know that the programs are in a position that if you don't play well, you'll get slapped with a loss.
yeah, that's true. Wake Forest came up and played Utah State, and they kind of found that out. So, um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's what I never really heard of Arkansas State or anything like that until that game, and ever since then, I'm like, I'm gonna keep my eyes on these guys, and it just seems like they've just been really solid, since then. What, where, I know you guys get you get graduate transfers or just transfers in general, but where do most of the recruits that play at Arkansas State, where do they come from? I mean, Arkansas, is it a big high school, talent-rich area? I mean, I know you got
Yeah,
the
it's
backs there
it's
fighting for
it's pretty good. It's pretty good high school football. Now, Arkansas State will sign 5 to 10, maybe not quite that many Arkansas kids. Now, Arkansas State is located in Jonesboro, which is in the northeast corner of the state, and it is probably the weakest area of the state for high school football. The Northwest is really good around up in that area, and South Arkansas is usually very good. East Arkansas is okay, but Northeast Arkansas is probably the weakest area. But in my opinion, what's really turned this program around was when Steve Roberts was the head coach, and he was the first of the 5 coaches in 5 years. It was his last year when he got fired, and then 4 others came after him. He made the decision to go into Alabama and get kids. Well, Northern Alabama is only about 4 hours from Jonesboro. It's closer to Jonesboro than it is the schools in the middle and southern part of the state. So, and there was a time in the GoDaddy Bowl a couple of years ago when we were playing Ball State. At one time, 9 of our 11 defensive starters were from Alabama. I mean, we just go in there and we got really good players out of Alabama, and you supplement those. You obviously you get some JUCO guys. It helps that Mississippi is a state that has a lot of junior colleges and pretty good junior college football. And Mississippi is a bordering state, and the northeast, the northern part's not that far away. We don't get much from Missouri outside of the St. Louis and KC areas. Football is not really that outstanding in Missouri. I don't know what it's like. You're from Iowa. I don't know what it's like in the northern part of the state, but the southern part of the state is not really great football. Memphis has a lot of football players, but they all like basketball over there, so you don't get a whole lot of Memphis. But the southeast, Alabama, Georgia, we've started going into Georgia quite a bit. Get a few out of Tennessee, but not much. So, and this year we've gotten some kids out of Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like Arkansas State's one of the teams that always pops up on the radar, the offer sheet of the same JUCO guys as Utah State too. I've noticed.
Yeah, I
So
think I excluded Texas. We do go to Texas and get some guys, and a lot of times it seems like we're competing against you guys down there.
yeah.
I know y'all go to Texas quite a bit too.
Well,
So,
and Damian
but
Hobbs is a guy that He was committed to Arkansas State, switched to Utah State, and then the last minute switched to Oregon, and obviously is back at Utah State after spending a year at Oregon. So yeah, they run against each other in recruiting all the time. One thing that I thought it was interesting too, looking through the rosters and some of the numbers, it's virtually even as far as how many